Why does Allah need to lie to the enemies of Jesus to protect Jesus?
Because not every deception is a lie. Why?
Not every deception is a lie. You've got to believe in Islam to make that statement. I mean, the lie itself is utterly pointless because Allah could save Jesus with or without the lie. Should Muslims trust Allah for salvation even though they know Allah lied in the past?
Yes.
There you go. Cognitive dissonance. Okay.
Yeah, pray for me, pray for me.
You got a question?
Pray for you, family.
Go on.
You were talking upon like the moon and stuff like that, like the prophecy of the moon, like where the moon split, if I'm correct. You're talking about that, right?
No, we weren't talking about
What
that.
are you talking about, if you don't mind saying?
So I was talking about the fact that in the Quran,
Yeah?
we talked about a lot of things, but we landed on in the last thing,
Yeah.
we talked about the fact that Allah deceives the people to believe that Christ was crucified when in fact, according to the Quran, Christ was not crucified. That is a textbook lie, a deception, and thus if Allah lied to the people, you wouldn't buy a car from a liar, so why would you entrust your soul to a liar?
Yeah, okay, I'll tell you why. Because you're forgetting a key detail.
Go on.
With Islam, if the message has not been reached upon someone, they are not faulty for what they do. Why? Because in Islam, before, for example, with a Muslim, if he says something which takes him out of the fold of Islam, and he doesn't receive the message that this takes him out of the fold of Islam, then he is not a kafir, he is still a Muslim. He will still go to heaven. So now with the case of Jesus, Isa alayhi salam, and how Allah quote unquote deceived us by what you say, because not every deception is a lie. Why?
Not every deception is a lie. You've got to believe in Islam to make that statement.
No, not every deception is a lie.
Not every deception is a lie. That's going to be a meme, I'm telling you.
Okay, now cool. Now going
Just
on
expect to see yourself on Instagram with that one.
Cool, you do you innit? Now, with the difference with Isa alayhi salam, and it makes him to be look like him, the message wasn't reached to the people that it didn't look like him, right? That it wasn't him, right? So they would be excused for the actions they do because the message wasn't reached to them. And if they did know that Jesus was going to be taken in the place of someone, as Isa alayhi salam, if he gave the message to them that it was, then they would be punished for that. The people that did know and lied to other people, that's the difference. You're forgetting a key mistake. That's why your argument has a flaw.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
So let me present to you that perhaps you haven't thought about this as deeply as you think you have.
Go on.
The thing is, your hadiths and the science of hadith say that you don't take a hadith from a liar.
Yeah,
right? If someone is known to have deceived people, you don't take a hadith from them. Now you recognize that because you said, of course. Your Quran describes itself as hadith. In the Arabic, it literally refers to itself as hadith.
Yes.
So since Allah has bore witness that he deceived people, according to your hadith science, you should not take hadith from Allah. No, ladies and gentlemen, the issue is not the fault of the believers, which is where your argument lies. Your argument was, well, the people who believe the lie are not guilty because they didn't know it was a lie. Is that fair? Have I represented you correctly? Right. But that was not my argument. In other words, you answered a completely different argument. I never spoke about the people. I spoke about the liar Allah. And the fact that the liar Allah deceived the people. And the point is, if Allah could deceive people for 700 years, letting them think that Jesus was crucified when he wasn't, how do you know that he hasn't lied to Muslims for 1400 years for you to think that Muhammad is the final prophet, when actually in another 200 years he's going to send another prophet and say to you Muslims, oh, I made it appear that it looked that way, that Muhammad was the final prophet.
Okay, now I'll tell you why you haven't even tracked my argument in the first place.
You haven't even understood the argument, I assure you.
Your argument is that Allah is deceiving. That's your argument. Am I wrong?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Then I did track the argument and you lied. Okay.
Go on.
Cool. So now when it comes to this, my point, the first point I actually made is that it's actually true. It actually relates because the deceiving doesn't matter in this situation. Why? You would have to propose why deceiving makes a problem in a paradigm, in an inconsistency in religion. You don't provide the argument for that. You haven't provided one yet. And why this quote-unquote deceiving provides an inconsistency. And when Allah made it to look like so, right? Now we're gonna go to that. Why it doesn't matter is because the people are not blameworthy for it. Because who was the people that got deceived? It was the people that got deceived, correct? Okay, beautiful. So the people do have to do something with the argument, and you waffled again. This is straight waffle. So now, with this problem, right, that you're trying to present, quote unquote, this problem that you're trying to quote unquote present, the problem is here is that if the people are not reliable for anything, the people that have been deceived and the message hasn't been reached to them, then there's no problem in this. Oh, because they're going to go to heaven and going to be tested in a different way ever if they pass the test correctly, right? So no, but that's another flaw in the argument, I would say, because the people are relevant to the argument, and because a deception, it doesn't prove anything wrong in the paradigm.
Right. So let's be clear. The first thing is that the brother is right that in certain paradigms you can lie. If you're at war with people, you deceive them. And you deceive them because you're trying to gain some tactical or strategic advantage in the war. But imagine the fact that you've got the most powerful being in existence. What's his excuse for being a deceiver? We powerless, we finite creatures deceive because we wish to gain power. If you have to deceive people, then it means that you are not all powerful. The problem is not about what happens to the people, the problem is about the source. The fact of the matter is, if Allah lied once, you cannot know that he isn't lying to you again. If he deceived people to believe that Jesus was crucified, how do you know he's not deceiving you now? Because you know that he deceived in the past. Now, who did he deceive? He deceived the enemies of Jesus to believe that Jesus was crucified. Think about how ridiculous this is. Allah can save Jesus and let everybody know that he did it. What's the point of saving Jesus and then making his enemies think that they killed him? Rather than humiliating them and go, you wanted to kill him, despite your efforts, I saved him and you couldn't do a damn thing. The problem with saying that your God is a liar and that you accept that he's a liar, please know he has accepted that Allah lied, means that how can you trust that he is not lying to you? So for instance, what's your name, bro?
Hussein.
Hussein.
Yeah.
Let's imagine that you catch me out on a big fat lie. I'm selling you a car and you catch me out and you go, yeah, you lied about that. Would you trust me if I then said to you, oh, by the way, your wife is committing adultery on you? Would you trust me? Based on the fact you've just caught me out on a big fat lie.
Look,
answer that question.
You have to prove why it's relevant in the first place. Because that example...
It is relevant.
Okay, how's it relevant?
Right, it's relevant because what we're talking about is, can you trust your authority? If the source of your authority is a liar and you recognize that he deceives people, how do you know he's not lying to you? The God of the Bible never lies. He allows other people to lie. He allows other people to deceive. He allows them to deceive themselves, but he himself does not deceive.
The devil is a liar.
The only one who is the father of lies in the Bible is Satan.
Yeah.
So my question is, again, now that I've demonstrated its relevance, my question is again, if I lied to you about a big fat thing, about an important thing, could you trust me in other things? Would you trust me in other things? If I lied to you about other serious things? No.
Okay, can I give you a reason?
Right, go on.
The reason is, the distinction is between that you're a human and you do not possess the characteristics of a God. Do you agree, right? So the difference is, the reason why I wouldn't trust you and I would trust my God is that because my God, I know, is all knowing, and he knows what is the best to do in every situation. Now when it comes to the situation of Isa alayhi salatu wassalam, the difference is with him is he done that because in my religion and your religion, we don't let our prophets to die in a horrible way all the time, right? Not all the time. We don't let our prophets to die in a horrible way. The difference is, on your religion, you let your Jesus be slaughtered by humans and be his life taken by his own creation. That's the difference. We don't allow that to happen to our prophets. Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he died restfully on a bed, right?
Poisoned by a Jewess.
Yeah, okay, but that did the point.
Yes, okay.
No, but did the poisoning directly cause his death?
He's literally
Did it directly
says
cause his death? Did it directly cause his death?
he said
No, did it directly cause his death?
yes.
Huh?
He said that I still feel the effects on my aorta from the poisoning of the Jewess.
Okay, cool. But when I mean directly, does it mean when he directly
Did it kill him there and then? No.
Okay, beautiful. That's the difference. Your Jesus, your quote unquote God, he died directly. But anyway, putting that to
But your prophet can be poisoned.
That's not okay. Yeah, your one's a God, mine was a prophet. That's the difference. Your God died, my God didn't die. Look, now hold on. Now wait for a second.
Yeah, go on. I'll let you finish and then I'll reply.
With the situation of Isa alayhi salatu wassalam, you're telling me, well, he lied to people, blah, blah, blah. The reason why I can tell that he didn't lie to us as Muslims is because I can find no mistakes, no contradictions in his message. And for one reason to be a religion to be true is that there's no contradictions in it, correct?
Right, so let me reply.
Yeah.
So firstly, the brother's logic is nonsensical and non sequitur.
Why?
It does not follow that because there are no contradictions in a person's statement that they are not lying to you. A lie can be completely coherent. After all, Allah lied to the enemies of Jesus, and that was a coherent narrative. So the fact that it didn't have any contradiction according to the Islamic history doesn't mean that it wasn't a lie. The brother doesn't understand logic. So in other words, if Allah could coherently lie to the enemies of Jesus according to the Islamic history, it does not follow that because there are no contradictions in the Quran, that Allah is not lying to him now, ladies and gentlemen. Ignore the lady, pay attention to me. Furthermore, I'm not going to get into the side debate about whether there are contradictions in the Quran, because there certainly are contradictions in the Quran, ladies and gentlemen. Thirdly, the brother doesn't know what he's talking about in regards to Christianity. He hasn't taken a moment to study Christianity, because Christians don't teach that God died, ladies and gentlemen. We teach that the humanity of Jesus died. And if you had bothered to do some real research to engage in an intelligent conversation, rather than parroting what you heard some silly Muslim TikToker say, you would have been able to engage with us in what we actually believe. So when you're going to criticize Christianity, criticize us for what we believe, not for what you think we believe. You've admitted Allah lied. You've admitted that Allah deceived. So I'm not lying about your religion. And your defense is, well, there's no contradictions in the Quran, so Allah's not lying to me, but that is non sequitur defense. Your apologetic fails, and thus the charge still stands. You can't trust Allah, he's a liar.
Okay, now beautiful. You didn't even track when I mentioned the contradictions. I said one of the reasons, if that's clear to you, is that there's no contradictions. I'm going to say, do you agree? And then I'm going to carry on, yes or no?
I do not agree.
Okay, so good, religion can have contradictions in it.
Right, ladies and gentlemen. I did not say that religions can't or can have contradictions. What I said was, whether a book has contradictions in it or not, does not say whether it's truthful or false. Why, ladies and gentlemen? Because con men tell stories all the time that are coherent. There are no contradictions in them, but that doesn't mean that they're telling the truth. Because if, ladies and gentlemen, it was so easy to identify liars, no one would ever be conned. The reason why so many people get conned is because con men can speak without contradiction. So it is not a defense.
Okay, now beautiful. First of all,
it really is beautiful.
Okay, yeah, not your statement, it's my statement to it. Look, when it comes to that, I disagree. Why? Because if God was to send a book down to this earth, God would preserve it, first of all. God will not let the hands of man disturb his book in a full sense. I agree that there can be little discrepancies, like let's say a little comma add-on on the physical copy of the book. That's different. But what I'm trying to tell you here is that God has came and God will preserve his book, right? And furthermore, if we go back to the thing in which way you said, okay, Isa alayhi salam, Allah is a liar, blah blah blah, and you bring up the hadith of hadith science. First of all, doing a lie in hadith science doesn't directly make you weak in hadith. I don't know where you got this mentality from, where making a lie is, directly you're weak in hadith science. No, because that's not how it works. Unless you can bring to me how committing one lie directly makes you a general liar, because if you're providing me one certain case, that's what I'm saying, being one lie is make you a general liar, that's wrong, that's different. Now, in the case of Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, that still doesn't prove the inconsistency of the religion. Because you a second ago even prior to response, what if, a finite, blah blah blah, omnipotent. You're just appealing to your emotions in the first half of your argument. You're just going, what if a finite, what if a powerful, blah 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 said this to us when it wasn't like this. You're just telling your emotions to us. Like I said, if there's no reliability on the people, there's not going to be any badness upon the people if they do good with the test that Allah will provide them on Yawm al-Qiyamah. So there's no problem in anywhere. It doesn't put anyone's heaven on the line or hell on the line. It puts some people on hell on the line. Why? Because for the people that went against Jesus, right? And so with this thing, this lie, it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't even fool anything into religion. One lie doesn't make a religion false if it's in order to protect one of its prophets. You would have to provide me a reason why, how one lie causes a religion to be false in order to protect its prophets. Because the lie was not for badness. The lie was not for people to say this and this, because the people already find that the message hasn't been reaching them. So you can't appeal to the people, he deceived people. Why? Because the whole argument is about deceiving people. It doesn't matter if the people are deceived, because they're going to be tested differently on your day of judgment if the message has not been reached to them, right? And so we got the people out the way, you can't appeal to the people, and now the lie wasn't for bad,
Can I reply?
The lie was for good.
Right, so let's be clear, because you have not actually engaged with my argument. You are making assertions that if a book is from God, it's going to be preserved and there's going to be no contradictions in it.
Yes.
Right? I am saying to you that the phone book is perfectly preserved. That doesn't mean that the phone book is true. Harry Potter is perfectly preserved. It doesn't mean that it's true. Harry Potter is without contradiction. It doesn't mean that it's true. These are non sequitur arguments. The fact of the matter is you've already admitted that Allah is a liar. Right? You've got to now tell me why he's not lying to you. You've given the fact that the book doesn't have contradictions, but that doesn't prove that he's not lying to you. Because every con man can tell a coherent story that doesn't have contradictions, and that's how they con you, ladies and gentlemen. So you're not dealing with the point, you're simply flabbergasted and you're simply just repeating rhetoric you hear in the mosque, and you're not thinking for yourself and you're not thinking through the argument. Repeating like a parrot checkpoints that Muslims do in dawah is not sellable to me, because I'm not a clown in a masjid. I actually think for myself, and just saying that a book is free from contradictions doesn't mean that it's trustworthy. And incidentally, on a side argument, the Quran's packed with contradictions, but that's a separate debate. Now, to your second point, if I can even remember it. The second point that I wanted to reply to, bear with us 1 second.
Take your time.
Yeah, thank you. So we were talking about, the second point. Allah lied, which he admitted again that that's what Allah did. Allah lied to the enemies of Jesus to protect a prophet. I want to point out to you how pointless and ridiculous the situation is. Just think it through in your head, right? The enemies of Jesus, they all gather around the house where Jesus is, and they're going to get Jesus and they're going to kill him, right? And Allah goes, I've got a bright idea. I'll raise Jesus to myself and I'll save him. Great. Jesus is raised to Allah and he's saved. Why does Allah need to lie to anyone? What's the point of the lie? Why lie? I mean, the lie itself is utterly pointless, because Allah could save Jesus with or without the lie. The lie adds nothing to Allah saving Jesus. But what it does do is show that you can't trust Allah. Now let me explain why this was made up by Muhammad.
Why?
Because Muhammad lived in a world where everybody knew that Jesus was crucified, and so Muhammad had to deal with that fact, but explain it away. And so he says, Muhammad accuses Allah of lying, and says, Allah made it appear that way. I want you to explain to me, why does Allah need to lie to the enemies of Jesus to protect Jesus? Answer that question. Why does Allah need to lie to the enemies of Jesus to protect Jesus? Why couldn't he just protect Jesus and not lie? Go on.
Okay. Now the reason why Allah made it look like so.
Lied.
Yeah, whatever you want to say, your team argument is
What
fine.
would you call it?
Yeah, okay, fine. Look, so now with the thing here on why Allah made it look like so, it's like I already told you, which is a substantial reason, in my opinion, it might not even be your opinion, right, is to protect him. Second of all, added on to that is the thing that, look, if you don't find protecting him as a valid reason, then that's in your opinion, that's good for you. You don't have to accept that reason. I never said you have to accept that reason. Just because you bring your teammate arguments from your YouTube, that's fine for you. You do you, innit? Now the second thing, you're telling me, if Allah is omnipotent, if Allah is all good, right, why does he have to lie? Well, we can...
That's not the question.
No, that's one of the reasons. That's not the essence of the question, but that's one of the things. If Allah is omnipotent, why did he have to lie to the enemies of Jesus, right?
Yes, why did he have to lie? Why couldn't he protect Jesus without lying?
That's
Answer
what
that.
I just said, and now
You
say
didn't.
That's not the reason.
You just repeated your argument.
Yeah, exactly, and I don't have an argument, you have an argument.
Look, brother.
I have a reputation, you have an argument. No, but it's fine.
Okay, I'll let you. Do you want me to? Can I come in, or do you want to finish what you're saying?
Yeah, tell me inconsistency what I'm saying.
Right. So the inconsistency is this.
Yeah.
I asked you the question.
Yeah.
Why did Allah need to lie to protect Jesus? Your answer was Allah lied to protect Jesus. That is not an answer to the question. I did not say what did Allah do to protect Jesus. The question was not what. The question was why. Why did Allah need to lie to the enemies of Jesus when Allah could have protected Jesus without lying? So why does Allah lie?
Okay, now the problem is you fail. Why? Because the whatness, the word what you're using is how it's done, right? How he done it. The word why is the reason to it, right? When I say
well done, Sherlock.
Yeah, right.
Now answer the question.
Okay, so the what of it, the what of what he done is he raised Jesus into heaven. The reason why he done it is to protect Jesus. So now you're conflating.
Why does the lie protect Jesus?
It's because Jesus was going to be killed by his enemies. So Allah rised into heaven and made it look like so they can leave Jesus and his firstborn.
Your hadith say that Allah raised him to himself whilst he was in a house before the crucifixion, that they crucified someone else in his place. That's what your hadith say. Are you aware of that?
Yes, they took him up.
Did you all hear that?
They took him up.
He knows that the switcheroo happened before the crucifixion. In other words, the lie is superfluous. In other words, Jesus was already safe. So in other words, he hasn't got a justifiable reason why Allah needed to lie. Now let me help him. Jesus was crucified. He did die on a cross, and your Quran is a liar because it's from a liar and it can't be trusted.
My brother Bob, have a shower, get a haircut, you look rough, man. You look like you're not getting peaceful sleeps at night.
I look, now you see what the problem is and what
next week.
You see what the
Next week I'm tired now. I got my 20 minutes.
I've got to admit, I do love clickbait dawagandists.
Okay, now you see what the problem is. If Allah didn't make it look like so, the Jews, right, the Jews that were aiming to kill Jesus, right,
Who would have failed,
No, they would still look after him to kill him, to find him.
but he's already in heaven.
No, but you know when you're talking
He's
about
safe.
the first moment, right? You're talking about the moment when he was in the house, right? That's the
Yeah,
moment he's first
so
about.
what would have happened if Allah hadn't lied? Right? The Jews look around, they can't find Jesus, and then what? Eventually they give up. That's all that would have happened.
And now they killed someone.
Right? But instead, this is how shameful the Islamic story is.
Yeah.
Firstly, it says that Jesus is an utter coward, because Jesus goes, oh guys, who's going to die in my place? And then the youngest of his followers stands up and goes, I'll do it, Isa. And he goes, no, sit back down. And they goes, who's going to die in my place? And then the youngest guy stands up and goes, I'll do it, Isa. And then Isa goes, no, 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 sit back down. And then he goes, who's going to die in my place? And then the youngest guy stands up and goes, I'll do it, Isa. And then goes, all right. Now, let's just get this clear. Firstly, that says Isa is a coward. And I agree that Isa of Islam is a coward. Secondly, it says the followers of Isa are cowards. And I agree. In the Quran, the followers of Isa are all cowards. But it also makes an even worse thing. It makes Allah a liar. And if Allah is a liar, no Muslim can believe him, because how do you know he's not lying to you now? How do you know that he only made it look like Muhammad is the final prophet? How do you know that he only made it look and appear that Islam is the final revelation? Because according to your book and your hadiths, Allah made it look like Jesus was crucified when he actually had no reason to do so, and he killed one of Jesus's followers to do it. How pathetic is such a God?
Okay, shall I respond?
Yeah, go on.
Okay, look. Now I have one simple question for you, right? Are you using the word, when you say Allah is a liar, are you using that he's generally a liar in a sense?
Right. I'm using it in this sense.
Yeah?
That when someone lies, they cannot be trusted.
I disagree.
Right. He disagrees. So let me ask him this question. You're coming to buy from me a car, and you know that I have sold cars by lying. Would you buy a car from me? Be honest.
No, because the message has been reached me.
There you go. No, you wouldn't buy a car from me if I was a liar. So why would you trust your eternal soul and destiny to someone who says that they're a liar, admits that he lied and deceived people about his own prophet?
Okay.
Allah admits that he lied about his own prophet, and he lied by killing that prophet's followers, because the prophet and all the other followers apparently were all cowards. This is not a religion worthy of being followed.
Yeah.
But we've got good news for you. The good news is the God of the apostles and the prophets is not a liar, does not deceive, there's no shadow of turning within him, and it is only Satan that lies. And that the God of the apostles and prophets has only spoken truth and is himself truth, and because he is truth, he cannot lie.
Now the thing is, with the example you provided me of the salesman of the car, right? You provided me that example. The distinction is that let's take me back to the time of Jesus alayhi salatu wassalam, right? And where I'm not part of the disciples, I just see someone like Jesus being crucified. Now, in the example you made, you said that I know the salesman a liar.
Yes.
In the example of Jesus alayhi salatu wassalam, did the people who the message has not been reached to know that it was not him?
Right, you've misunderstood the analogy.
No,
Because, yes, you did. Because in the analogy,
Yeah.
you coming to me as the car salesman is you going to Allah for salvation. I am not talking about the people at the time of Jesus. At no point has my argument rested on those people except to point out that Isa's a coward and that Isa's followers are a coward,
Yeah.
and Allah kills the followers of Isa because apparently that's what he needs to do to protect Isa, even though Isa's already safe. Make it make sense, please. The analogy that I made is that you, the Muslim, comes to me, the car man, Allah, for your salvation, the car, but you know that I'm a liar, but you wouldn't buy a car from me. All I did is switch out salvation for a car, Allah for me, and you for Muslims. And when I did that, you accepted, when I didn't use Muslims, Allah and salvation, you accepted that you would not trust. But then when you reinsert Muslims, Allah and salvation, suddenly you want to trust. You got caught out, you didn't know you were being caught out, but you have admitted in your heart that you cannot trust Allah.
There's a problem in that.
Go on, explain the problem,
if you're
please.
telling me, well, we're not at the time of Jesus, then is your example contingent upon time?
My example is contingent on time.
Okay, so then your argument is from an argument of silence because your argument starts from something contingent.
It's not from silence. Your
because it's
Quran,
not. No, but
it's
it's not
not.
from
It is
contingent, right?
not from silence.
No, because it starts from
No,
contingent.
you don't even know what you look. You're throwing out catchphrases you don't
Should I
understand.
define contingent for you?
Yeah, let me explain. Let me explain what an argument from silence is, because you
Argument
threw
from
it.
lack of evidence.
It's not from lack of evidence. It's not from silence. The Quran literally says Allah made something that is not true look like it was the truth. That's what your Quran says. That means it's not silent and it isn't without evidence. It is overt, evidenced.
Okay, now let's go back to the example because you have.
No, let's deal with the argument.
But you provide an example with the argument. Now that example you provided, if you were debating me now at the time of Isa alayhi salam,
We're not debating at the time of Isa. We're debating in 2025, and the analogy is about now.
Okay, so your example, I'm disregarding because like I
Disregarding
said,
it. There we go.
Your example is contingent upon time, and you say that in the situation of Isa, they did not know. In this situation,
That
I
is
do
not
know.
the argument.
Hold
You
on,
haven't
that's
followed
an
it.
example. That's the example.
It's not the example. I correct you again.
No,
The
hold on.
example.
Let me name your example. Let me
Right, go on.
man your example, and
You-
then you can tell me if I don't know.
You're right, go on.
Okay, look. So there's a salesman that you know that lied to people for selling cars, and you asked me in that example, would I then go to that salesman to buy a car?
And you answered.
No.
Right, now, let me ask
So did I
this.
get your example right?
No, wait,
Did I
wait.
get your example right?
No, we can see if you've got the example right. In my example,
Yeah.
who does the car salesman represent?
In that example, you said you're supposed to represent God,
Right. And in that example, what does the car represent?
salvation.
And what does the buyer represent?
The buyer is represent Muslim.
Right.
Quote, unquote.
So there you go.
Yeah.
When he knows all the pieces, he says you can trust the car salesman. When he didn't know all the pieces, he said you couldn't. Because when he didn't know that I was making up an example and just swapping out Allah for me, him for Muslims, and the car for salvation, he said he wouldn't buy. But now, let me ask you this. Should Muslims trust Allah for salvation even though they know Allah lied in the past?
Yes.
There you go. Complete contradiction. Cognitive dissonance.
Wait. Before
All I did is swap out words, bro. The example's identical.
Okay. Now
Yes, okay.
the problem is your example. Like I said, you're not even dealing with the fact. First of all, did I get your example right?
Well, under interrogation, yes.
Okay, beautiful. So I did know your example, and you lied. You said I didn't know your example. So you lied again. So
No, that's not true.
hold on, I can speak
But go on.
anyway. Okay, now beautiful. Now the problem is, the distinction is that you're bringing me an example with a human. Do you agree that there's nothing like God?
Yes.
Okay, so the problem is in your example is that I would even say that this example is like the argument you're proposing. Why? Because in the argument you're proposing an omnipotent being, or omniscient being, and a being that's omnibenevolent in this quote unquote, right? First, I don't believe, and I'm believing most of them, not all of them. Look, so now the thing is, what I'm trying to say is that now you're providing me a human in the example, and you're saying you're giving the same scenario, but two different actual sources that don't have any light in between them. An example is when there's similarities in between the two case scenarios of providing. But the problem is, with the source in itself, with the salesman, there is no light between the salesman and God. So the difference is, I can trust God if he does something that is supposed to be benefiting for the Prophet ﷺ, and I cannot trust a salesman because that's a human that has mistakes.
So let's be clear about what the brother just said.
Yeah.
He just said if Allah lies, it doesn't matter. If you lie, it does. Well, I want to point out that there's a better way to think about this, and that is, don't trust a liar. And that Satan is the father of lies, ladies and gentlemen. Let's be clear. According to your Quran, and you just a quick answer, please.
Yeah.
Does Allah misguide people
Huh?
as He wills?
For badness, no.
Does He That was not the question. Does Allah misguide whom He wills?
It's not a simple dichotomy.
Right. So let me answer the question he doesn't want to answer.
It's not a simple dichotomy.
According to the Quran, Allah misguides whom He wills, and He guides whom He wills. According to your Quran, does Satan misguide people?
Satan gives the people desires, but he does physically
Right.
not misguide himself.
So I'll answer the question he didn't want to answer.
I just answered it, but-
According to the Quran, Satan says, I will misguide people. So think about this for a second. Allah is saying, I am going to misguide people in the Quran. And in the Quran, Satan is saying, I am going to misguide people. Now let me ask you this question.
Where does it say?
Is Satan like Allah, and is Allah like Satan in misguiding people?
The difference is
Go on,
that
the
when you
difference.
provide the case of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is that with Satan,
Sorry, we're having a conversation.
Why are you lying?
I'm
You
having
are
a conversation.
you are
I'm having a
lying.
conversation.
Why are you
Nobody
lying
is your
about the
dhimmi.
Quran?
I'm having a
Why are you
conversation.
lying about the
Why are you
Quran?
lying about
You
your
are lying
Quran?
about the
Why are
Quran.
you lying
You are
about your
deceptive. You are
Quran?
making
Why are you
deceptive
lying
claims.
about your Quran?
No, you are lying
You
about
are
our
like, yes,
Quran.
you don't
You
even
are
know what
lying.
your Quran is saying.
Show the
You don't
reference
know.
where does Allah
I'm having a
say that
conversation with him, I'll have a conversation with you. No one's your dhimmi. You're lying. Takia, as always.
Kia fried cheesecake.
look, now what I'm trying to say here is the difference is with Satan, he provides desires for humans for them to lie, for them to be misguided, right? He doesn't directly misguide them. The difference is God has the power himself to misguide or guide anyone. Do you agree? Because God is omnipotent.
I think you have misrepresented the Quran.
Huh?
I think you have misrepresented the
If we
Quran.
take Islam in itself,
Let's
I don't go by
get out
Quran
the
itself.
passage.
I don't
Let's
go-
get out the
wait, hold on,
passage.
hold on. I don't
Let's
go-
get out the passage
Can I-
because you're misrepresenting
can I
the Quran.
distinguish something? I don't go by the Quran in itself. I'm a Muslim. I take the Quran, I take the Hadith, and I take the scholars in themselves. Now, if you're going to be critiquing my paradigm, if you're going to be critiquing Islam, you said you're critiquing Islam, right?
Yes.
Okay, there's a distinguish between Islam and Quran only. Islam
Correct.
doesn't consist of the Quran only.
Very true.
But Quran only consists in itself like the Quran. Now, what I'm trying to... Hold on. What? Oh, no.
Muslim
So-
believe Islam. Quran alone is enough.
Huh?
If you reach properly.
I disagree with that. If you just believe in the Quran, you're a disbeliever.
You ask for a verse, someone.
Brother, let me just have this conversation with him. Okay, let's wrap it up. So, yeah, let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
Do you want to do you want to make your final point?
You can make a final point and I'll respond after.
No.
I need to think of
No,
what
I'm
say.
no. Is that your final point?
Huh? Is that a final point?
Make your final point. Because I'm just going to do a wrap up after you go anyway. So
What, that I don't take the Quran in itself?
no, I've never disputed that.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
So here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
You can't trust
Allah.
the source of the religion, Allah. Allah is the poisoned well. Whatever is drawn out of that poisoned well, whether it is hadiths, whether it is Quran, whether it is tasfiyah on hadith or tasfiyah on Quran, whether it is sunnah, everything that is drawn from a poisoned well is poison, ladies and gentlemen. So the fact that I have pointed out that Allah is a liar and he accepts that Allah is a liar means that you cannot trust Quran, hadiths or tasfiyah or sunnah. They are all poisoned because you can't trust a liar, ladies and gentlemen. But the good news for this Muslim,
What's the good news?
the good news is the God of the Christian scriptures does not lie. Yes, he allows others to lie, and that is exampled in the Bible. And yes, prophets complain that they felt that God had lied to them, like Jeremiah does. But just because someone complains, you have deceived me, O Lord, because he thought it was all going to be easy, and it wasn't, doesn't mean that God himself lies, ladies and gentlemen. Just because God allows someone else to lie doesn't mean that God lies. Now notice the difference between the quality of the God of the Christians and the quality of the God of the Muslims. We Christians say that God has not lied. Muslims admit Allah lied. But then they say to us, your horrible religion lets the prophets die. Ooh! My gosh, you're admitting that your God is a liar. And then you're complaining that we believe prophets get killed. Incidentally, one of your Qiraat also say that people are killed, prophets are killed in the way of Allah. But maybe you don't know about the Qiraat and the variations therein. But that's a separate debate. No, fundamentally, it doesn't matter if you're Quran only, Quran with hadiths, Sunni hadiths, Shia hadiths, Ibadiya hadiths, Sufi hadiths. Doesn't matter who your scholars are.
Sufi hadith say we're fake.
If your source is a liar, everything coming from the source is tainted by lies and cannot be trusted. Over to you.
Okay, now the thing is, first of all, I don't know why you're talking about Ibadi hadith, Sufi hadith, those are not a thing. I don't know where you waffle that
Not
from.
to the Ibadi and Sufi.
No, Sufis are not hadith. Sufis, they actually take the hadith of the Sunnis. I don't know where you're waffling about that, upon that about. Now, see, what the difference is, with the
all of
example
them.
of the poisoned lake you brand, if there was going to be quote-unquote poison by what you see in a lake, does that directly mean the whole lake is poisoned?
Sorry, say again.
If a lake gets an inch of poison, right, a little pinch of poison in the lake, does that mean the whole lake directly gets poisoned?
Depends. If the origin of the lake is poisoned, the lake is poisoned.
Yeah, but I'm not certain that. That's up to possibility. That's not up to certainty. Look, now I'm telling you, if a lake, an inch of lake is poisoned, does that mean that everything else in it is now poisoned?
You've misunderstood the
I'm asking
argument.
a question. There's no argument. I'm asking a question.
Well, it's not okay.
Okay.
It's not relevant to my argument, but the answer would be no.
Okay, beautiful.
It's not relevant to my
Now
argument.
you see, the problem is, if we take that now, you're assuming that then if poison is added to a lake, the whole lake, then it is going to
But
be
nobody's
engulfed
adding
in poison.
poison to Allah. Allah is the source of
Let me
poison.
finish with the guy. You're assuming that the whole lake is then engulfed in poison. No, that's from possibility. You're saying what if you're doing whataboutism? That's a fallacy, right? You're saying, oh, but then what if Allah lied to the Muslims? What if Allah lied to so and so? That you're just doing whataboutism fallacy.
It's not
Or you're saying,
whataboutism.
what if this? What if Allah lied to the Muslims? So there's an inconsistency there. You can believe it's not, that's you. Now the problem is that if you're going to take examples like Gibran, if we're going to take examples and talk about if God is omnipotent, why would he have to lie to his creation? If God is omnipotent, why would he have to let his son die? That's the problem.
This is your closing statement. Go on, bro.
That's my question.
Okay.
So we could be saved.
Is blood sacrifice the only sacrifice?
Put our faith in Christ so we could be saved.
Is blood sacrifice the only
Because
sacrifice?
that was the only true way we could be saved. Because he was perfect and he was the only one who could take all of our sins
No,
upon him.
can blood sacrifice be the only way to save someone?
It's irrelevant. I don't.
No,
it's
because if
irrelevant.
blood sacrifice is not the only way to save someone, why does God need to kill his son?
Because he loved us.
Huh?
Because he loved us.
Okay, so then where's the inconsistency in the Islamic one?
I can't hear you.
If
what
Allah-
you're
Where's the
saying. I can't hear what
inconsistency
you're
in the
saying.
Islamic one where God saves the Prophet?
If Allah wants to destroy Jews and Christians, why Allah is sending a terrorist?
Because it's a test.
Why not Allah do it himself?
Because it's a test.
It's a test of what?
Guys, now now everybody's doing whataboutism. Now everybody's doing whataboutism. He's literally just slipped into whataboutism. Literally just now.
No, that's in response to him. That's not what about.
No, that he was responding to your argument, bro. Remember the sequence of events.
Okay, so now in that situation, the difference is all you're saying is that if we're talking about, if we're going to provide his argument and we're going to do what he done as well, is talk about what if you lied to the Muslims and what if blah 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 blah.
No, it wasn't what if.
No.
It was how can you
Okay, so are you
trust?
certain?
I am certain that Allah is a liar,
Okay, you
and I am
agree with that?
certain that I would not trust my soul to someone who lies.
Lying in a specific sense doesn't mean you're lying in a general sense. That's your own argument. That's waffle.
No, it really isn't
that's
waffle.
No, that's waffle.
It really isn't waffle.
Okay, lying in a
You
specific
would
sense.
not trust you should not trust your soul
Does that mean that the-
to someone who has deceived people about matters of
That's your
salvation.
opinion. I don't believe that. Look,
Well, that is
so it's an emotional
people
argument.
have.
It's an emotional
It's not
argument.
emotional
No, because
argument.
that's your opinion, that's not my
It's not an emotional argument.
that's your opinion. That's not my
It
opinion.
is the kind of logic by which we operate.
Just because you lie once, that doesn't
Every
make you
single
an
day.
ultimate liar.
Well, maybe you should tell that to your hadith science guys.
Maybe you should take that to your church fathers.
Right.
How about
So, firstly, brother, what aboutism? These are just you're just chucking out anything
okay,
you
my
can.
bad for doing what
You're
you've done,
chucking
innit?
you're chucking the kitchen
are
sink
you.
and stuff.
So are
Anyway,
you.
I want to give you a gift.
that? Give me a gift.
Yes, I want to give you a gift. Yeah.
Gift of what?
Well, it's just a gift.
What, a little pamphlet?
Yes. So there you go.
Quick read.
There you go. It's about Jesus.
I got to give you this one before.
You've been given that one before?
Yeah.
All right, I'll give you a different one then.
Then, bro, is he turned? Is it still the same? Is it changed?
I don't need to change the full stuff.
People don't necessarily change just because you have one conversation with them.
Give me your prayers, family.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, go on.
Right, you have a look after yourself.
Take care, yeah?
Pleasant talking. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me just explain why Jesus died for us. Jesus died for us because of the consequences of sin. Like this, imagine it in this way. You need something, an operation, an organ in your body, because it's diseased by the way that you've lived. And because it is diseased, you're going to die unless that thing that is diseased is replaced. And there is only one donor that can give it to you, and to give it to you means that he has to die because he also needs this thing. When Christ dies for our sin, he is exchanging his life for our death. We are in death because of sin. And Christ has eternal life. And when he dies on the cross, he is giving his life to conquer the death that we are in. It is like a soldier who jumps on a grenade to absorb the blast to protect the rest of his troop. It is like a father donating his heart to his son so that his son might live, or a brother donating his heart so that his brother might live. If you want a movie parody of this, like a movie parody of this, there's a good example in, you know, the movie with John Connor's in the future, the Terminator series. And that cyborg has a human heart, and right at the end, John Connor gets stabbed through the heart, and then the cyborg says, let him have my heart so he can live. That's the kind of situation that we're talking about. Christ is conquering death, but he does not stay dead because death cannot hold him. His life is eternal. His life is unconquerable. And he who laid down his life takes it back up again. Now Muslims say, why does Jesus die for us? Great question, Muslims. Why does Allah chuck Jews and Christians into hell so Muslims can come out of hell? Because that's what your hadiths teach. So you've got the fact that we Christians and Jews are saving you from hellfire. We're your saviors.
We're saving them.
So explain to me, if you've got a problem with Jesus dying for our sins, why Allah needs to chuck us into hell so that you can come out of it.
That's what makes sense.
And that's your hadiths. According to your hadiths, when a woman loses a child, 2 or 3 children, it protects her from hellfire. Why is it the deaths of little children are protecting their mothers from hellfire? That's in your hadiths. So don't try and lecture us about the crucifixion of the Lord Jesus Christ.
Right.
Any questions, ladies and gentlemen?
You got someone from Somerset that came all the way from Somerset.